Just to let you know, the actual Mid-Hudson Regional Business Plan Competition is being held on April 17th, which is a Friday, and it's being held here at Marist College. And the winners, 2 in each category of the 6 categories, are eligible to move on to the state competition, which is May 1st, 2020, which is going to be at Sage Armory up in Albany, New York. My name is Cynthia Warad. I'm the Assistant Dean to the School of Computer Science and Mathematics here at Marist. And we have 2 fantastic speakers tonight. Jennifer Robinette, who is going to be going over the Perfect Your Pitch for all of us about how to, put your ideas into words and make it, the best that you possibly can so that you can win money and prizes and bragging rights at the regional level and hopefully also at the state level. We also have another presenter tonight. Bill Midgley from SCORE, who will be giving you an outline and a checklist of things that you should be including in your presentation and your pitch. And this way, that again, you will be the most prepared that you can be. So with that, I'd like to introduce don't love your batteries. Dr. Jennifer Robinette. Okay, so I got a couple little presenter advancement things here. Let's see which one works. So one of them. All right, well, welcome to what I call the Power Pitching Workshop. And I hope that you take some information away today that will help you have the best pitch and win at the competition. You don't have a lot of time between the Mid-Hudson Regional and the state competition. It's April 17th to 1st of May, not a lot of time. So you gotta have your ducks in a row and be ready to go. And let's see, we can get you ready for the 2 seconds. There we go. So probably one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time, right? Steve Jobs said, "People who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." That's one of his most famous quotes. And so your idea could have the potential to change the world. But the thing is, you have to be able to communicate that idea clearly and in a compelling way to someone else in order to be able to do that, right? And that's what power pitching is all about, is learning to communicate your ideas in a way that will compel other people to support your ideas. No volume?
Not know how to pitch. We did not know how to.
So before we went on the road show, the bankers and Mike and Ed wanted us to have a particular professional look.
We did not know how to pitch. We did not know how to dress. We did not know any part of the process, really.
They asked us to also get a coach who could teach us how to present properly and the physicality of it.
Think of online community like your offline community, except much bigger. In the next few years, there's going to be 100 million people on the internet.
We didn't understand the communication style, and this was incredibly frustrating to Steph.
Okay, so you have a couple of tech entrepreneurs here who are trying to get their pitch together to get some people to support their startup. And you could see how they were dressed when they were practicing, probably not setting themselves up to be the best and the most effective when they get into the actual situation. To have the perfect pitch, you have to develop a persuasive presentation that is on target and in tune with your target audience. And so those are 2 principles that we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about your story, determining your why, and how to pursue that. We'll talk about aiming your pitch to be audience-centered. We'll talk about planning your pitch, and when we talk about planning, we'll talk about being strategic and being clear. And then we'll talk about delivering your pitch. So all of these are these notes are in a PDF that is going to be posted online for you. Right? So
heard of left, but I think it'll be soon. It'll be soon after this. So don't worry, you will see all this. It's a lot. You don't want to have to pick out one. Okay, so let's start with what's your story?
Now, maybe some of you guys have tried to convey your idea, and it wasn't adopted, it was rejected, and some other mediocre or average idea was adopted. And the only difference between those two is in the way it was communicated. Because if you communicate an idea in a way that resonates, change will happen, and you can change the world. And the way that ideas are conveyed the most effectively is through story. You know, for thousands of years, illiterate generations would pass on their values and their culture from generation to generation, and they would stay intact. So there's something kind of magical about a story structure that makes it so that when it's assembled, it can be ingested and then recalled by the person who's receiving it. So basically, a story, you get a physical reaction. Your heart can race, your eyes can dilate. You could talk about, oh, yeah, I got a chill down my spine, or I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. We actually physically react when someone's telling us a story.
Okay, this is a great TED Talk, and in the PDF of the notes, actually linked to it. We're going to see a few clips from it throughout the presentation today. But Nancy Duarte analyzed the greatest speeches of all time, and she found a consistent pattern. And that pattern also fits with a very effective, persuasive pattern of organization that we teach in public speaking. So we'll be looking at that. The whole idea with story, though, is to move people, to get them to actually act, to get them to fund your idea. You have to appeal to logic, yes, with all of your total target market data and that kind of stuff, but that is in a different part of the brain, right? We think rationally on one side of our brain, and watch just like that. Okay. And then the limbic system, which is where we feel, is in a completely different part of the brain. And you have to activate the limbic system to move people, to get people to want to act on the logical appeals that you've made to them, right? So if you leave out that story and the feeling part of it, then you're not going to be as compelling with your presentation. Highly also recommend Simon Sinek's inspirational leadership model. Take a look at that. And he's talking about it from an organizational point of view and getting people to follow you. And he says people will not follow you for what you do. They will not follow you for how you do it, but they will follow you for why, right? So it's the why part that studies have actually shown activate that limbic system. So your why is your purpose, your cause, your belief. You have a great idea, but why, right? Why did you come up with this idea? Beyond wanting to win this competition, right? So think about what is your purpose, what is your cause, what is your belief? And that's going to be the center of your story. You have to find your why to craft your story around. Okay, so now aiming your pitch. When you're audience-centered, you're tuned in to a particular target audience. Now, as I understand it, you won't know exactly who's judging you when you compete in this competition, but you might also be presenting your idea someday to investors that you do know ahead of time who they're going to be. So you always want to do your research on who your audience is. If you, like for this competition, you might have like previous winners, you can do research on what their ideas were, and then that might tell you a little bit about what judges of this competition tend to value, right? But you always want to do research on your target audience so that you can tune into them. What are you looking for? Well, go to people's websites, look for their mission statements, look for their organizational structure, look for their annual reports, who's on their board, look at their social media. All of those things will give you clues to what they value. You need to figure out what do the people I'm pitching to value. Anything that you can find out about who you're pitching to is great. It's going to be very helpful. All right, so then you have to figure out where their values and your story meet. That's being audience-centered. So to be in tune, where do their values and your story, your why, your purpose, your cause, your belief, where do those two things meet? Okay, plan your pitch. Now that you have done your research and you have thought about your why and where your why and the people you're pitching to, their values will be, then you've got to plan your pitch. When you begin to plan, you should know that the number one most important thing you say and display is the last thing that you say and display. There's a principle in persuasion called recency, meaning people are most likely to remember the thing they heard most recently, right? If they remember nothing else about your pitch, they'll remember the last thing that you showed them, the last thing that you said. That's why it's the most important thing you say and display. The second most important thing is the first thing that you say and display. Because your audience is second most likely to remember the first thing that you say. That's called primacy, meaning that psychologically, we are most likely to remember the last thing we heard most recently, and then we're second most likely to remember the first thing that was said. Everything else in the middle might get lost and blurred, but those two things are super important. So what does that mean for your pitch? That means that if you can connect those two things, you will create something for your audience called psychological unity, or sense of completion or wholeness for your audience. So you take the first thing you say, your attention getter, and you take the last thing you say, your closing, and you develop those two together. Develop them together to work together. Just different options for opening your pitch. You can use quotes. You can arouse curiosity in your audience by asking questions. You can startle your audience with statistics or images. And then, of course, story. You can think about your story, and if there's a story that you want to tell, perhaps you tell the whole thing as your attention getter, your opening, or you tell the beginning, but you leave off the end and save that for your closing. You can do it that way. You can ask questions in your attention getter, you can answer them in your closing. You can also combine more than one of these strategies so that you have an extra strong attention getter, so you don't have to choose one or the other. You can have a question, an image, a quote, and a statistic for an extremely powerful attention getter. All right, the last thing you say in display. All right, so this is the current CEO of Apple. What was his presentation about? Can you tell me from looking at that last slide that you showed? Nope, can't. If your last visual is effective, then you should be able to tell what his presentation was about, right? What function does having thank you in giant letters behind your head do? It doesn't really do much, right? And if people do it all the time, and what it is a wasted opportunity. It's a wasted opportunity to leave that last impression on your audience. Remember, the most important thing you say in display is the last thing that you say in display. And if that's it, it leaves no impression on your audience about your topic. So never ever display thank you behind your head. You want to be sure that the visuals have something to do with your idea and convey what your presentation was about. Here's another thing people frequently do. Any questions? Does that help you develop questions to ask the speaker? Does it remind you of any content that was just presented to you? No. But you can develop a slide that reinforces your content and helps stimulate questions in the audience. And I'm going to show you an example of how to do that. But having any questions in giant letters behind your head doesn't really help people generate questions, right? So a good Q&A slide should help generate cues. The last thing you say in display for a persuasive pitch should be a meaningful, memorable call to action. You want to go for impact, right? So your closing can be a story. You can end with answers to questions, but you always want to close with a call to action. What do you want? You definitely won't get what you don't ask for, right? So you always have to close the deal and have that call to action. Okay, so we talked about beginning and ending, and now we're going to talk about what you do in the middle to persuade people. In public presentation, there's an organizational pattern called Monroe's Motivated Sequence. And Monroe's Motivated Sequence was designed to motivate people to action. And it has been studied over the years, and it's been proven to be very effective. So, there are 5 steps to the neurosmotivated sequence. The first one is your hook or your attention getter, right? And then the last one, step 5, is your closing call to action. We already know about those, but the steps in the middle are what help motivate that action and help people want to act on your call to action. So in the body of your presentation, you could have 3 main points. Your first main point is to demonstrate demand or need. What demand or need is your product or idea fulfilling? Okay, so you have to demonstrate that in point number 1. Point number 2, you supply the solution for that. So describe what your solution is. And point number 3 is probably what a lot of people don't think to do, and that is to help your audience visualize your solution in action. So help your audience imagine what it would be like if your solution was implemented to that problem. You need to explicitly and vividly do that for your audience in order to motivate them to act when you get to your call to action. So Nancy Duarte's Shape of Great Presentations, as I was looking at it, I said, you know what, this reminds me of Monroe's motivated sequence. That's what it is. Because you start with what is, and this is what she found as a pattern in great speeches like Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, all sorts of different great presentations she analyzed follow the same type of pattern. And that is, they begin with what is the current situation. Then they go to what could be, right? So that's what could be if my solution was implemented. And then they go back and forth between what is and what could be, what is and what could be. And they end with the new bliss or the new norm. So imagining the new norm if your idea was implemented. And that is Monroe's motivated sequence. So we're going to get into this in more detail now.
And here it is. This is the shape of a great presentation. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I want to walk you through it because the greatest communicators of all time, I went through speeches, everything, actually I can overlay the shape. Even the Gettysburg Address follows the shape. So at the beginning of any presentation, you need to establish what is. You know, here's the status quo, here's what's going on. And then you need to compare that to what could be. Now you need to make that gap as big as possible because there's the commonplace of the status quo, and you need to contrast that with the loftiness of your idea. So it's like, you know, here's the past, here's the present, but look at our future. Here's a problem, but look at that problem removed. Here's a roadblock. Let's annihilate the roadblocks. You need to really amplify that gap. This would be like the inciting incident in a movie. It's when suddenly the audience has to contend with what you just put out there, and they have to say, wow, do I want to agree with this and align with it or not? And then the rest of your presentation should support that. So the middle goes back and forth. It traverses between what is and what could be, what is and what could be. Because what you're trying to do is make the status quo and the normal unappealing. And you're wanting to draw them towards what could be in the future with your idea adopted.
Okay, so her point about making sure that the gap between what is or the current need and then your solution to it and what could be, make that gap as big as possible, right? So how much better things would be if your solution or your product was implemented. Okay, so here's our motivated sequence. Your main point number 1, that's the what is, the demand stage. Like, what is the current state of things that I'm trying to address with my product or idea? Then main point number 2, that's the what could be, that's your solution. And then main point number 3 is where you go back and forth to help your audience visualize what life would be like if your solution was implemented. And then in the closing call to action, you focus on the new bliss or the new norm. So that's how you would implement the story pattern that is found in great speeches in a persuasive pitch based on Monroe's motivated sequence.
Here's Mr. Jobs. Completely has changed the world. Changed the world of personal computing. He's changed the music industry. Now he's on his way to change the mobile device industry. So he's definitely changed the world. And this is the shape of his iPhone launch, 2007, when he launched his iPhone. It's a 90-minute talk. You can see he starts with what is, traverses back and forth, and ends with what could be. So I want to zoom in on this. The white line is him speaking. He's talking. The next color line you'll see popped up there, that's when he cuts to video. So he's adding some variety and he cuts to demo. So it's not just him talking the whole time. And these lines are representative there. And then towards the end, you'll see a blue line, which will be the guest speaker. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. Every tick mark here is when he made them laugh. And every tick mark here is when he made them clap. They are so involved physically. They are physically reacting to what he is saying, which is actually fantastic, because then you know you have the audience like in your hand. So he kicks off what could be with this as a day I had been looking forward to for 2.5 years. So he's launching a product that he's known about already for a couple years. So this is not a new product to him. But look at this. He does this other thing. He marvels. He marvels at his own product. He marvels himself more than the audience laughs or claps. So he's like, isn't it awesome? Isn't this beautiful? And he's modeling for the audience what he wants them to feel. So he is actually doing a job of compelling them to feel a certain way. So he kicks off with what could be, with every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. So he starts to kick in and talk about his new product. Now at the beginning of it, he actually keeps the phone off. You'll see that the line is pretty white up until this point. So he goes off between, here's this new phone, and here's the sucky competitors, and here's this new phone, and here's the sucky competitors. And then, right about here, he has a star moment, and that's something we'll always remember. What he does, he turns the phone on. The audience sees scrolling for the first time, and you can hear the oxygen sucked out of the room. They gasped. You can actually hear it. So he creates a moment that they'll always remember. So if we move along this model, you can see the blue where the external speakers are going, and then over towards the bottom right, the line breaks. That's because his clicker broke. So what does he do? He wants to keep this heightened sense of excitement. He tells a personal story right there where the technology didn't work. So here's the master communicator, and he turns to story to keep the audience involved. So the top right, he ends with the new bliss. He leaves them with a promise that Apple will continue to build revolutionary new products. And he says, there's an old Wayne Gretzky quote that I love. I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it's been. We've always tried to do that at Apple from the very, very beginning, and we always will. So he ends with the new bliss.
He ends with the new bliss, and what? What kind of closing strategy? Quote, right? A compelling, very interesting quote. Okay. All right, so here's our Monroe's motivated sequence. We've got our attention getter, we've got our action, closing call to action down here, and our 3 main points in the middle, need, solution, and visualization. Now we're going to talk about establishing your credibility, because right after you get people's attention, you need to establish your credibility. You need to give them a reason to listen to you about your idea. So a credibility statement is information that's all about you, right? So what's your interest in the product? What is your experience or your interest in the product or idea or situation or problem? What is your experience with it? How did you acquire your knowledge? What kind of research did you do? What kind of training have you had? What kind of education? Right? All of those factors are things that you can talk about in that second step, right after you have their attention, because you have that great attention getter that drew them in. Now you're going to talk about why they should listen to you about it. One other thing you need to do at this step, at the credibility step, is build common ground with your audience. So this is where you might purposely point out your shared values with them. You can even think in general terms about your audience. So for instance, you might not know exactly who your judges are going to be, but you know they are in America at the moment, right? And they are judging this business competition in America. So you can think about what kinds of American values you could appeal to, like freedom, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, those kinds of things. So if you can't do research on specifically who it's going to be, you can think more generally. But whatever those values are that you identified, you want to specifically mention your common values with them. So what are the values that you have in common with them that you have built your idea on? That's at step 2. Okay, so far we've talked about your story, finding your why, being audience-centered, being strategic. We talked about psychological unity, which is connecting your attention getter and your closing. We talked about Monroe's motivated sequence to move people to action. And we've talked about establishing your credibility. Now we're going to talk about being clear and the idea of psychological reactions, because you do need to introduce your idea, and this is what we would most often call a thesis statement that we're talking about here. The idea is to be clear, you don't have to be explicit necessarily. I'm going to tell you why. So the art of persuasion lies in simplifying something down to its core and communicating to others what they really care about. So important, right? So you want to be clear. But here's the thing. What if at the beginning of my presentation I said to you, I'm going to change the way you pitch your product or idea today? You know what your internal dialogue would be doing? Oh yeah? Really? You think you're going to change that? Right? Essentially, we're all teenagers at heart who kind of rebel. And so if you say to someone, I'm going to convince you today that my idea is the best idea you're going to hear all day, right? Or if you say, I'm going to persuade you that this is the only idea we need to fund today, you're automatically going to kick off this refutational internal dialogue where they're challenging everything that you say. So you don't need to be explicit to be clear. You definitely don't want to say that. You want to say something like, I'm going to share with you an idea that was inspired by whatever your values were, right? I'm going to tell you about something today that will change the way you think about whatever your situation is that you're addressing. So those ways are ways of introducing your thesis, which is that third step that you need to take after you establish your credibility, without being so clear that you will then kick off that psychological reaction. Okay, so at the beginning of your pitch, you get their attention, you establish your credibility, and then you have your brief topic teaser. The next step is your preview. And that's where you just give them a brief roadmap of where you're going to take them in the body of your presentation, which are those three main points, right? So that means you need to just briefly say what is, what could be, and then what the vision is for the outcome of your idea. And then you'll get into the body of your presentation. Because when you tell them what you're going to say before you say it, then that helps them follow along. And they can follow more complex ideas, which I'm sure you all have ideas that have complexities too. After you go through all three of your main points, then before you have your closing call to action, a step that you need to do is briefly reinforce what you just told them. So you can develop your summary very easily with the same words you used in your preview, but it's just in past tense. So you talk about what is, what could be, and your vision. And then you have your closing call to action. So this is the entire blueprint for a successful persuasive pitch. Every step that you would need to take, from your intro to your body to your conclusion. All right, and your closing call to action, of course, focus on that do list.
So after you've moved back and forth between what is and what could be, the last turning point is a call to action, which every presentation should have. But at the very end, you need to describe the world as a new bliss. This is utopia with my idea adopted. This is the way the world is going to look when we join together and we solve this big problem. So you need to use that as your ending in a very poetic and a dramatic way.
Okay. So I do highly recommend seeing her whole presentation. It's really, really, really excellent. Okay, now let's talk about delivering your pitch. Your visuals, pitch perfect visuals. How do you come up with those? Well, first of all, you want to think about these three principles: size, simplicity, and color. Size. Bigger is always better. You should never have less than 20-point font in general. You want to keep that in mind, because no matter how great a projector is, it's not going to be big enough for most people, especially those who are going to be sitting in the back of the room. So you want to be sure that you have size, the right size for your visuals. Simplicity. What you want, the PowerPoints that you see in your classes and in workshops like this are for instructional purposes. So there's a lot of content on them, right? There's a lot of words. But you don't want a lot of words and content necessarily on your slides. You want mostly images, so less text, mostly images. You want to help your audience visualize what it is you're telling them. You want to limit fonts. So a lot of times, sometimes, like in my campaign management class, when students present to clients, sometimes they'll have a lot of different fonts on one slide. And that you always want to avoid. You want to remember the simplicity principle and limit the different types of fonts. Bold fonts stand out more. And sans serif fonts, you know what serifs are? Or serifs?
They're Latin for little feet, and sans means without.
Yeah.
So it's very plain font.
Okay, yes, because the serifs are the little tails that you have on like Times New Roman and everything. So they're thinner, right? And every projector, no matter how good, is gonna like blur the edges of the words and the text. So when you have sans serif fonts, it stands out better. When you have those thinner parts, it's gonna not project as well. So you want Arial, you want Calibri, you want those bolder sans serif fonts. And then color, think high contrast. Because again, no matter how great that projector is, it's always gonna wash out the image. So you should see what this looks like on the screen here. Much better, brighter, more vivid than what you're seeing here. So you always want high contrast between text and background, right? So if you have text on your slide, you want dark text against a light background or light text against a dark background. High contrast, for it to show up better. And this one's kind of tough, but you want to, if you can at all accomplish this, don't pass anything around until after your presentation is done, after your closing call to action. So if you're demonstrating a product, let's say you have images of the product up here on your slides, you keep the focus up here. You don't pass it around among the judges until after your closing call to action. And then I had one student in the workshop, I think it was the first year I did this, ask, what if the judges ask to see it, like before your presentation's over? I don't think I would say no. I think I would still let them have it. But in general, you don't want to initiate that because you want to keep the attention on your presentation, because what happens? What happens when something's passed around? Like, what if I have these notes here for you now? No, pass them out. You're going to be looking at that, right? If I pass them out during, you're going to be making sure the next person gets it and all that. Your attention then is taken away from the presentation and the pitch. And you need their attention to be solidly up here with you. Okay, and test your slides. Everyone has a different frame of reference, okay? So that means each of us in this room, I'm sending out one message right now, but there are roughly, 30, 40 different messages being received, because every one of us in this room have different backgrounds, different experiences, and you have to interpret messages through your own frame of reference. That's how you make sense of it, right? So you've worked on your project and your idea for a very long time. You understand it very well. So when you look at your slides, they make sense to you. But to someone who doesn't have that background or experience with your product or idea, they may not make sense. So here's what you can do. Get a friend who knows nothing about your product and just show them your slides and say, explain that to me. Tell me what you think that means. Take them through each and every slide and have them explain it to you, right? And then you can see, are my slides clear to someone who knows nothing about my idea or my presentation? So you're like testing the quality of your visuals. Okay, pitch perfect presentation always begins with professional appearance. We're going to see some examples here in a minute. Also, movement and immediacy. And we'll talk about something that inhibits that. But immediacy means establishing a sense of presence with your audience. Now, you don't want to be creepy close. Like, I don't want to be right here talking the whole time, right? That's creepy. You're like, okay, that's weird. But you want to move, right? Move around and establish a sense of presence or immediacy with your audience. Conversational. You always want to be conversational and don't read. Don't read to your audience. That will put them to sleep. We read to kids to get them to go to sleep for a reason, right? It's going to, we automatically go into monotone and it'll put your audience to sleep. So you want to be conversational and you want to have great eye contact. And we're going to talk about how you accomplish those things. Which one of these people would you find? Where are you going to put your money? What do you think? Beer blizzard or sweet balls? Cake balls? Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. You don't want to dress like your target market, right? Don't dress like your target market. These people are dressed professionally in their professional attire, right? It makes them more credible. Don't dress like your target market to pitch your idea. That's my best advice on that. All right? What about this one? Which idea are you going to fund? thing I always tell students is you're not dressing up in costume, right? Sometimes we'll have presentation topics and students actually they dress as that or something. No, you're not dressing in costume, right? So you dress up for a presentation, you dress professionally. So I would say that the more professional dress would probably be the winning idea here and where people will invest their money. Okay, podiums are evil. This thing is evil. If I was standing over here, here's what I'd end up doing. And that's just not motivational to an audience at all. People will hold on to, they'll lean on, and they're just a barrier between you and your audience. So podiums are evil. Try to stay away from them if at all possible, because it will get in the way of you connecting with your audience. Okay, so great things in business are never done by one person, they're done by a team of people, according to Steve Jobs. How many of you are presenting in teams? Yeah, a lot of people presenting in teams, right? So you need to think of a strategy. You have the different parts of your pitch. Who's going to present what part? What order are you going to be in? What order are you going to stand in? Now you could just go straight down the line, or you could have a staggered presentation. Start inside, go to the ends, and then end up in the middle. Right? That would keep it more interesting for your audience. The other thing you can do is if you have someone who's really strong, they open, then everyone else presents their parts, and then the last person who's really strong comes back at the end to close. So that would help facilitate that psychological unity if the same person opens and closes. Okay, conversational versus reading tone of voice. I have a great clip from friends that we don't have time to see, but your notes will make or break your conversational delivery. So if you have every word that you had planned to say written out, it is too tempting and too possible for you to then just revert to reading to your audience. If you take your notes and you actually physically write out notes, but in brief abbreviations, so that if you were to read it word for word, it would make sense to your audience, you're reinforcing the information in your mind and you're preventing yourself from falling into that reading tone, monotone voice. Good old-fashioned note cards. Some of my students earlier today had good old-fashioned note cards for their public presentation class. So you want to construct them in a way that makes them easy to use too. Like identify the part of the pitch that you're on in a different color ink even. Don't forget your visual aids. Sometimes you might forget to switch your visual aid. Put a notation on there so that you don't forget that. Brief keywords only, and then don't forget to number them. I've seen students come in for presentations and have their note cards that they put all this time into preparing, and they draw them, and they didn't have the numbers. Now what, right? So number them, and I even highlight it. So that way you can also tell if you skipped one, right? So pay attention to how you construct your presentation notes to help you be conversational, so you won't read. Strategic pauses. All right, so this one I'm not so good at because I usually have a lot of information I'm trying to get through. But pausing can be very effective because you're going to be presenting complex information. It can create moments for your audience to reflect, for them to work on understanding what it is you're saying, for building anticipation, and for experiencing emotions. And so Mark Twain was known as a great public speaker. And one of my favorite quotes from him is, the right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a right and time pause. What do we usually fill pause opportunities with? We usually fill the opportunity to pause with things like, okay, right? These are verbal fillers. Perfectly normal, natural verbal fillers, because most of us are uncomfortable with silence. Letting there be silence for a second. So you have to develop the ability to be comfortable with silence, to work those things out of your vocabulary when you present. There is an app that I highly recommend. It's free. It's called ORAI. It was developed by a young man who was afraid to speak in public, and then he decided that he was going to master that fear, and he developed this app with his buddy who had the skills to do it, and they launched it, and you can record yourself presenting, and it gives you ratings. So it'll say like energy level, and it will tell you how many times you said those kinds of verbal fillers, but it is really great to have that feedback, instant feedback. And it's just audio. So you record yourself, and then it gives you instant feedback on what you just recorded. It's really a nifty little, he did a TED Talk too that was really, really good.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing because this stuff is just fabulous. I have students put the word pause or smile. I actually have to use the word
Oh,
smile.
yeah, on their cards.
Yeah, I don't quite use cards because we use the notes on PowerPoint, the note.
Oh, okay.
But I always say to them, if you use the word smile, you can look at your audience
Yeah.
and smile
It
at
reminds
that
you.
point, and that gives you the
It's fine.
opportunity to pause. I mean, I use pause a lot when I'm teaching because I want to capture somebody getting them off their cell phone, so I stop talking. but
That doesn't always work, but yeah.
you know, I just wanted to share that because that was
Yeah.
one tip that students felt good because they see the word smile
Yeah.
and it makes them comfortable, and then they're, and then they're like smiling, and they say something I don't know, it just works.
That's great. That's a great idea. Fantastic. The other thing you want to do, besides recording yourself in audio and watching yourself, we have a room that I call the Power Presenting Suite. It hasn't caught on yet, but they will call it that eventually, I hope. It's Library 314. But you can go in there, with a team of people, and you can put your visuals up, and you can present and record yourselves presenting. Now, you don't have to have a fancy room like this on your campus to do this, of course. And if you have a friend, they could just video you with their own phone together. But the important thing is that you record yourself and you watch yourself. Because students improve exponentially when you see yourself after you have presented. So I record a lot of presentations in my classes, and then it's part of their assignments. They have to do a self-analysis each time. Now it's painful. Like, I hate to hear the sound of my voice. I'm just, the hic sound just drives me crazy. Most people, by the way, some studies show, hate the sound of their own voice, which is interesting psychologically. But it's worth it. It's worth the pain. It's worth the pain. And you definitely want to over-practice two things, your intro and your closing, or your conclusion, which includes your summary and your closing, right? So your attention getter, credibility, thesis, and preview, because studies have shown that after you get through those four important parts of the introduction, once you get into the body of your speech, the physiological symptoms of anxiety settle down instantly. So if you over-practice those, then does anyone play sports? Has everyone played sports, right? Okay, so at the beginning of a game or a match or whatever it is you're doing, don't you tend to make more mistakes sometimes? You've got more nerves going, right? Okay, so it's the same thing when you present. You're going to have that. So if you over-practice your introduction, then you're ready and prepared to sail right through those first parts when you're having those extra physiological symptoms of stress and anxiety. Okay, and the other thing is the conclusion, the summary and the closing, because too often students get excited, they finish their last main point, and then they just quit. The closing never comes out because they're excited to be done. So over-practice those two, and then you'll sail right through. All right, so innovation distinguishes a leader and a follower, and you see this person is thanking him for keeping his eye on where the puck was going. So as an entrepreneur, and people with ideas with the potential to change the world, you can do it. Be sure you're ready to communicate effectively so that you can get people to follow you and rally behind your idea. So this is a Q slide, right? So we can have Q&A. So we talked about your story, your why, being audience-centered, strategic, and clear. We talked about Monroe's motivated sequence. We talked about creating psychological unity with your attention getter and your closing. We talked about establishing credibility and psychological reactance. So don't tell your audience that you're going to change them or convince them of something when you state your thesis. So what questions do you have? Did I do all right? Yeah.
Are you expecting a big audience for the pitch here?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. Cynthia, Roberta?
We certainly hope so.
Big audience? Do you present just to judges, or is there an audience there?
Both. So you'll have a group of 5 or 6 judges that you'll be presenting. They'll be judging you, but there'll be the audience in the room that could be 30, 40 people that are other teams, that are supporters from your college as well as other representatives from colleges that are also just there, just, you know.
It's a good question.
Also,
Anything that you
you'll
can
have
do.
investors, you might have, you know, investors, incubators that come as well. So there'll be a variety of people in the audience, but probably around, you know, 30 or 40 will be in the room at any one time.
Anything you can do to learn more about what the actual scenario is going to be, what the environment's going to be like, how many people will be in the audience, what types of people will be in the audience, that helps you imagine and sort of visually in your mind practice for that situation, so you're ready for it. It doesn't seem as foreign when you get there, because you know what to expect. Good question. What else?
Will we know who the judges are ahead of time? So you mentioned like the opposition research almost, just like
Yeah,
checking in.
I know. I asked them for the presentation. I don't think so.
Usually we don't have the judges listed for each category. There's always changes going on to the last minute. But the judges, will they know the judges are presenting? Probably not. No.
What about from previous years? So you may not be able to know who judged in previous years, right? You can't do that either. Okay.
Well, all the judges are listed on our website.
There you go.
We don't know yet, you know, every
Who,
judge.
who's judging what?
Right.
But
Our judges have all selected their preference, and I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to, you know, fit them in the slot. We do the best, but, their bios are out there with their pictures, so you'll know who they are.
there's your target audience research.
And there'll be like 30 judges listed for the day, so.
Don't know who you're going to get, but I mean, you can get a sense of who your target audience is by looking at that. And then also, can they look at projects that have won in the past? Is there a way to do that?
Projects, yes.
That have won?
On the state website,
They
they
may
usually
have a
have.
couple, yeah.
Check that too. That's going to tell you what the judges of these types of competitions tend to value and look for. So that will help you get to know your target audience. If you see what was successful in the past, you can kind of infer.
Actually, there are some YouTube videos
Oh.
also online. If you just Google, like, you know, New York State competition, you'll see there are some presentations, and they actually go through their pitch.
That's great. That's great. So that does help give you some background information to be prepared. Another great question. Thanks. All right. That's for me. All right.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. So, that was a lot of information, a lot of different steps for a presentation. Does anybody know, have you looked ahead, how long your pitch will be for the region? 10 minutes, yes. You will have 10 minutes to present your idea, and there will be moderators in the room that keep time and will cut you off at 10 minutes. Then there will be a Q&A period. How long is the Q&A period? 5 minutes, yes. So you'll have a total of 15 minutes to be able to communicate your idea and answer any questions. But when you practice, make sure you practice your presentation in 10 minutes or less, because a lot of times when you get up there, you might have pauses, you might have, transitions. So it's kind of good to practice and get it below 10 minutes. So this way when you get in there, you'll have, in case there's any glitches, you'll have the full 10 minutes to present. And then you will have 5 minutes for questions and answers from the judges, and believe me, the judges will ask you questions, and they will ask you questions very specific, and they will want concise, clear answers, because there will be more questions that they want to ask, and you don't want to take up the entire 5 minutes answering one question when you know the other judges will have questions. Also, with their pitch, see, killing time so that they had time to switch the microphone for our next presenter. So Jennifer, thank you again for a wonderful job with outlining. And so
Jennifer gave a really great structure as to give you an idea of the components of how to start off your pitch, give your, middle, and then have your very, tight closing that wraps up with the introduction. But Bill Midgley from SCORE is here today to fill in what is the content that should be included in all those steps in your presentation. And again, there's going to be a lot of information to include in that 10 minutes. So keep that in mind. So I'd like to hand this over to Bill Midgley from SCORE, our next presenter.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Okay, everybody knows what the acronym SCORE stands for, right? It doesn't. It used to. Back in 1964, when SCORE was started, it stood for Service Corps of Retired Executives. So people that want to give back to the community. Well, in today's environment, they're not all retired. Not all our mentors are retired. So they had a dilemma. Do you keep something that's been out there for quite a number of years, come up with a new acronym, or just say it just means nothing with the SCORE? And that's the official answer we have today, is it's just SCORE. So we provide mentoring services to the small business community. So, we're going to talk about how does it all get started, get into business. It starts with you. It starts with an idea. It starts with the question of, is it viable? Can you make it successful? So that's the kind of thought process. Then the question becomes, what about you? Do you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? Are you organized? Are you self-directed? Are you decisive? That can be problematic sometimes with some personalities of analysis paralysis. Decisiveness may not be a strong suit. Are you a hard worker? Jennifer talked about being persistent. You gotta keep coming at it. If you stumble, you gotta keep coming back at it. Healthy and have a very supportive family, very supportive network. These are all the key ingredients for starting a business and to be successful. So do you have what it takes? So starting point would be choice of time to launch a business, location. Okay? You're going to go into retail. What's the mantra? Is location, 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 right? Real simple, especially if you're in the restaurant business. Also, do you have the ability to manage and multitask? You're in college, so I presume you do. Time management. Critical. How do you put the right amount of time, the right amount of effort at the right level of issues? Do you have a strong work ethic? And I mentor quite a number of clients. One of the questions I ask when they're going into business is, what experience or education do you have in this field that you want to go into? Sometimes I get the glazed look. I would say, uh-oh, we have a bit of a problem. And the next question is, if you don't have it, are you bringing somebody into the business that does? The glazed look starts to disappear. It's a good thing, right? So those are key components there. And are you willing to accept input from others, from a mentor? And in a couple minutes, I'm going to talk about extended family, and I'm going to talk about aunts and uncles and cousins and other relatives. I'm talking about professional extended family? Are you willing to take input from others? Who will be the business owners? Who's going to do what? When will you open for business? And again, this could be a timing issue. How do you accomplish this successfully? And the answer there is what? Business plan. And that's what you're here all about in this competition, is developing a very strong business plan and communicating that to the judges and others to sell your business and to grow your business. Jennifer talked about this very, very explicitly. Is the idea clearly defined? Because you can't describe it, I don't understand it. Have you done extensive research on the market and competition? And sometimes people say, well, you know, I know there's other businesses out there. I say, well, who are they? What do they do? How are you going to be different from them? And again, develop a business and marketing plan is how you're going to lead yourself forward. It's a roadmap. It is a roadmap. It puts all this together. And here's the extended family I was talking about. An attorney, an accountant, banker or investor, insurance agent, broker, and of course, your friend the score mentor or some other mentor. This is your extended family. And you may need these people at different points in time. One of the things that we are proud of from SCORE is, as mentors, we're there for the life of your business. In other words, not just startup, but through your entire business life, if you so choose. So, and again, there's plenty of other resources out there as well that offer that. Vision statement. What's the overall purpose of your business? What are you trying to achieve? Makes sense? You got it up here. How do you get it down on paper? How do you communicate it? What does your business do? How is it different? What product or services are you going to provide? And that could be initially, maybe it's one product, but maybe we'll expand to other products over time. Services may start out at offering a particular single level service to get in, get comfortable, establish a name for yourself, brand, and then add other services as well. And those adding other services could be bringing other people into the business to help you add those services. So again, kind of think how you're going to build a business that will be sustainable. You don't want to come out with a plan that says it's a one and done. I mean, investors, you think you might be out with that approach. Not many, right? Okay. What's important to your business? The values your business lives by. What are your values? And again, that connectivity that Jennifer was talking about are the values that you have to your audience, to the business community, to the community at large. What is that that's going to resonate with other people? Okay? Now we're going to talk about business plan importance. Describes the business. Roadmap. That's what we're talking about. Becomes the foundation to launch and to grow your business. I encounter quite a few clients that say, all I need to do is develop a business plan to get started. You can do that. Then what? Where are you going to go from there? How are you going to grow your business? How are you going to achieve your growth? What are your targets for achieving your growth in year 2, 3, 4, etc.? So you need an ongoing business plan to grow your business. Most major corporations typically have a 3-year business plan, a rolling 3-year business plan. You go on Marist's website, you'll see a 3-year plan. Posted right on the website. That's what it is, business plan. It says, here's where we're going. Join us for the ride.
In the past, I think that's one of the questions that the judges have asked the students is how would you grow your business in the next 3 years? And I only say that is because we had a few students that really were not interested in growing their business. You know, but again, I'm just mentioning that because in my impression from the judges was that they really, at least the group that we were in for products and services, one was in the food product and the other was in just regular product stuff. And they wanted to know how would you scale, the word was scale your business up. So just following along with it.
Exactly. How do you scale your business? How are you going to take from one product to multiple products? One service to potentially multiple services? Yeah. In what time frame? What's it going to take to make that investment to continue to grow? How much is going to be generated by your business, and how much is going to be generated by incremental funding? So it's also a powerful management tool. Management has a plan, lays it out for 3 years. Everybody's on board knows where Marist intends to go over the next 3 years. It's a management tool, it's a communication tool. As a company owner, you have multiple people working for that company. I come from a large corporate environment. Well, I was real clear on what my responsibilities are to achieve that business plan every year. So it's a communication tool, keeps everybody moving in that same direction. Isn't that what you want? Common sense. The contents. And here you're going to get a lot of information coming your way. And everything that's going to be up here, you're going to have to present in 10 minutes. Good luck. Good luck. So, means I hope you listen very carefully to what Jennifer had to say. Table of contents. Real simple. An executive summary. And we're going to go through what each of these sections contain. Section 1, the business. Section 2, the all-important financials. And Section 3, all the supporting charts and details that you would love to present in 10 minutes, but there's no way you're going to be able to. That's in the appendix or the supporting data. Executive summary. What does the business do? Brief description of what you've identified as the market you're looking to play in. What are you doing that is special? I love this one. Why are you different? How are you going to differentiate yourself from the competition? Is it another Me Too product or a Me Too service? In other words, It already exists. So how do you differentiate? How do you break into the market if that's where you're going? If it's completely revolutionary, it's great. But how does it fit to the need of today's marketplace? It'd be the greatest idea, but who's it serving? What's its purpose? How much money do you need, and how do you plan on funding it? Cracking over the piggy bank? Borrowing from family and friends? Going to the local banker? Going to an investor? All the above? And who's the management team? Here's an interesting note I want you to really kind of focus on. You may want to do the executive summary last. Even though it's the opening, you may want to write it last, because it should be a summary of all the other parts, what the business is, the financials, in a very succinct manner, and you're probably best having that idea how to summarize that, to solidify that, once you've done all those other parts. So it comes first, but again, it's your opener. To Jennifer's point, that's also going to be your closer. Now the gory detail. Market analysis. What you're offering, description of your product and or service. What problem are you solving? Or are you creating one? Hopefully not. But what problem are you solving? And if you're solving a known problem, why is this something somebody else hasn't already figured out? Reasonable question. Again, if you're starting off with one product or service, that's fine. Again, what's that roadmap, that trajectory going forward in year 2 and 3 of adding more product or more service? May not be 100% solidified, but it's your intent. So where are you going? Again, it shows that potential for growth, potential for sustainability. What customers are you targeting? Have you done demographic analysis? Who's going to buy it? I can buy it. Your peers can buy it. All of us can buy it. All of us have a need for it. Who's your customer? How big is your market? Is it a niche? Or is it humongous, untapped? Who are the players in the market? How big a piece of the pie do they currently own? Is there 1% left for you? Or is there 50% left for you to jump into that marketplace? Who's your competition? What makes them special? So think about it. So you're new to the marketplace. How do you think the competition is going to react? Open arms and welcome you? Probably not. So how do you get in and convey your message that's different from what your competition is saying? What are you going to do that's going to make you stand out? besides negative advertising. Think about it. So if you've done your homework, have you analyzed that market? Is it growing? Again, is it local? Is it regional, national, or international? You may say, well, gee, I plan on just being local. It's okay, nothing wrong with that. But is your competition just local? Or is your competition everybody? Okay. So you need to think who is that competitor and how you're going to differentiate yourself. Next piece we want to talk about, how is the business organized? What will be the business structure? LLC, limited liability corporation, subchapter S Corp, a sole proprietorship, partnership. Again, we all understand the ramifications of an LLC, S Corp, versus a sole proprietorship. It's that legal separation between the entity and the individual. Where will the business be located? Are you doing this alone or as a group, which is fine? But what does each of the individuals bring to the table? What do they contribute to the business? And we're talking probably two elements. Maybe what their financial interest might be, and secondly, what skill sets are they bringing to the business, which may be even more significant than how much money they're contributing. What are the responsibilities of each person? Again, multiple people, it's of utmost importance to have this clearly defined up front. Who does what? If there's a difference in ownership, who has what? Things like how does profit get shared, how do losses get shared, things like that. You know, at the end of the year, you don't have that discussion and say, oops, we didn't think about this. You need to think about it up front. Will you go outside the organization for any type of help, either in conducting the business? Okay, you may also want to identify key, if you're making a product, you may want to identify if there's a significant component that is rare, unusual. You may want to identify that. Because if there's a problem with your supply chain and you can't get that component or whatever, does that impact your business? Think about today's environment and the coronavirus. Stock market today took a little bit more than a nosedive because of the potential implications on a worldwide basis of what on the economic structure. We know airlines are already been affected, but I think Apple announced that last week that they've cut down their sales projections because some of their factories have been closed, now reopening. And they're not the only ones subject to that. So you need to think about what are some of the vulnerabilities, and is that important for an investor to know? I know I sure like to know that little bit of information. And I wouldn't be a happy camper if I found that after the fact. Sales and marketing, reaching the market. How are you going to reach it? Know who your potential customers are? What meter are you going to use? How do you plan to sell your customer? Business hours. You might say, well, that's kind of crazy thought. Well, if you're going to sell nationally and you have a customer service desk, how many time zones do you have to cover? 3? Yes? You want to cover the total United States? You need to cover 6 if you want to cover Alaska and Hawaii. 3 will get you the contiguous 48. So, what are those little details? Okay. What are those little details? Again, is it only an online business? Is it only a virtual business? Again, being very explicit. Financial plan. Where are you going to get the money? And how much do you need? This is an area that some people underestimate. Most people say, well, gee, I need some desks, some computers, some shelving, rent the building, whatever the case may be. Well, those are all real costs. What about operating expenses for a period of time? Because there's a little technical difference between the time when money goes out and when money comes back in. For instance, if you're making a product or buying a product and reselling it, you're going to have to buy inventory. Okay. And if you're lucky, your vendor will give you terms 45 or 60 days before you have to pay for that. Okay, now you have this inventory. Now you need to sell it. Okay? If you're cash sales only, or credit card sales, you're going to get your cash inflow a little bit quicker. But if you're selling to a large retailer, Target, Walmart, one of those guys, whoever that guy is, Amazon, they're going to be looking for terms. They want to buy today, and they want to pay sometime in the future. Now you may have a timing difference between when you have to pay your vendors for product and when you can see cash come in. The ideal scenario is having terms with your customers to be sooner and the terms with your vendors to be later. Ideally, customer terms at 30 days, with your vendors 45 or 60 days. Gives you that little bit of cushion to manage cash inflows and outflows. And a lot of people, when they do their financials, focus on the balance sheet, which you need to do. Focus on profit and loss, the income statement. But they say, well, that cash flow statement's a pain in the neck. Well, that cash flow statement could make or break you if you don't lay it out and take a look at the timing on income or inflows and outflows. Again, as you'll note, these are typically presented in spreadsheet form. There's lots of different templates out there you can use. And again, so this is the third section. So again, all of those charts and a lot of the details that you would like to present, but really are not going to be afforded the time to present, it's going to go in the appendix. And as Jennifer said, if you have a picture of your product, we have a prototype. Leave it off to the side. until you're done. Then pass it around. If you pass it during the presentation, guess what? They're going to be looking at that thing and not listening to you. So summary, start with your ideas and build on it. Base it on thorough research and due diligence. The point of it's painstaking. You need to do the tough work up front. Be passionate about your business, but be realistic. And that's where sometimes I see differences in clients. They're real passionate, they got wonderful ideas. They don't want to be bothered with the details of business plans or anything else. It's way not fun. Well, be realistic. It's what's going to drive your business. Your ideas are only going to take you so far. Have that extended family. You're going to need them. Again, you'll need different ones at different points in time. And don't be afraid to get help. Touch into any one of those extended family members. And then look for advice and counsel, not for them to decide what you should do. That's your job as an entrepreneur. You give that away, it's no longer your company, it's theirs. Your business plan should clearly state the problem and the research that supports its existence. What makes your solution unique? What value will it bring to the marketplace? Why will people want to buy it? Why will people want to take advantage of your services? What differentiates you from the competitor? Who's your market? What's your message? What is your business model? And what are your key revenue and cost drivers? When do you expect to break even? Everybody knows what break even is. The amount of money you make, the amount of money it costs you are equal. That's break even. So you really definitely want to achieve that as quickly as possible. But it'd be real nice to take that next step and achieve overall profitability, which means you're probably going to be around for a while. That's what you want to shoot for. So with that, I want to thank you. Some of you may have already picked up a checklist. It's on the table over to the side here if you haven't already picked it up. And it's just something to keep you focused on what it is that you should be doing, questions you should be asking yourself, and use it. It's a checklist. Okay. So with that, I wish you lots of luck developing your business plans, and expect to see what we do at the competition. Thank you. Good. Thank you very much.
Okay. I just have 2 questions. Yes. Okay, so we're going to have students follow the template for the PowerPoint sheet. All the lovely information, the valuable information that Bill supplied actually fits in here really well. Not quite the same order as it, but everything is on here. Second, where did this sheet come from that says logo? Is this what the registration form looks like?
No, that comes from the state as far as the outline of the summary.
Okay, okay. Because we were just curious, because unless we actually have somebody do the registration form, as the advisor, we have no idea what it looks like. Right. Okay, and then the third thing that I have to state is, because I was on that website today, the Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov, that has a wealth of consumer information. And we have somebody at SUNY Ulster in the library who each department has a librarian who kind of, who's your contact person. So some of the other students might want to go to the library wherever their schools are and ask the librarian to help them gather up what data you need from the bls.gov website. I mean, there's a ton of stuff on there. And it would give you some of the statistics that you're looking for, or some, not the statistics, what was the term? The metrics.
Many of the private libraries offer the same services. They're called research librarians or whatever, and they'll point you, tell them what you're looking for, and they'll point you to the appropriate source. Great resource.
So just to repeat, 2 great sources for that research, statistics, getting some of that data to establish your credibility, to show where you are, where things are now, to make your gap or your wow factor bigger. One resource is on the state website.
No, it's the U.S. government site, the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov.
Okay. So Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov. And also local libraries. I know Marist has the same type of setup. We have actually on the Mid-Hudson Regional Business Planning Competition website, we have the information session that we did back in November. It has the slide deck, and it also has links to our Marist library for a resource. And then at look for the resources at your local colleges as well, because they're very helpful and useful, and they want to, they're there to help you. So thank you again to Bill for giving us the content, kind of an overview, what you should be including in your business plan pitch. Also, thank you to Jennifer, who had to leave, for giving us an outline to make a successful pitch. So now, what are the next steps if you want to compete? Well, keep in mind the 2 dates that you should be putting on your calendar are April 17th as well as May 1st, because hopefully we will have many of our teams go from the regional to the state competition. Also, all this information, by the way, can be found on our website. Our information session that we had back in November that gives you details. The rule book, there's a link to the New York State rule book for the competition that all the regions have to also abide by. So that's also on our website as well as the New York State website. But the next step is to get your idea, if you don't have one already, put your package together, start practicing, apply by March 20th to send in your application, which is all online. Also, get a mentor or advisor. You know, some places like West Point, SUNY New Paltz, you have full classes, so you have advisors there. But we also have additional mentoring possibilities or opportunities for you that we're going to have set up here at Marist College, as well as SUNY New Paltz is going to set up mentoring opportunities. And we're also going to, the new initiative this year is to have mentors come out to you at your college or West Point locations. So if you are interested in getting an external mentor, we have pink sheets over there where you signed up when you came in. Please put down your name, your contact information. This way we can reach out to you. We can, contact your advisor at your, local institution to be able to set up those mentoring. And I know a lot of people can't travel, during the day, during the mentoring at Marist or possibly SUNY New Paltz. But this way, if we have somebody in your local area that's willing to come to you, this is a great opportunity to take advantage of it. So on the website is the links to submit your application. And then, again, if you have any questions tonight, please speak to myself. Bill's going to stick around for a little while. Roberta's here, who's worked on, Roberta Diggins, who I think a lot of communications have gone out to you from. She's worked on the business plan competition for a few years. And we also have Dana Jones, Please ask her questions. She is a multi-time winner at the regional and state level competitions with 2 of her businesses that she is actually graduated from Dutchess College and Marist College, and she is an entrepreneur on her way of building her businesses. So please, seek her out and ask her questions too, because she's a great resource. But if you have any questions after tonight, Roberta and I, can contact you by phone or email. Please reach out to us, and if there's any questions right now, feel free.
Just one comment.
Yep.
Some SCORE is just, I think, like a miracle of the United States, and the fact that there are these mentors that volunteer their time and you can have meetings. I think one of the greatest things for an entrepreneur to build momentum and push an idea forward is having meetings. And that, like what you do is great. So thank you. I would suggest if you don't have business connections, SCORE is there.
Thank you. And just, we have representatives both from Altus SCORE as well as the Dutchess. We do at least have monthly workshops on a number of different topics. Anybody that's interested, I can leave a sheet. You just give me your name and your email address, and we'll be more than happy to include you on our email blasts when these are taking place. Again, on a monthly basis. Topics vary from month to month, multiple different locations, so we really appreciate that. Again, SCORE has 10,000 volunteers on a national basis, spread over 300 chapters. Two of the smaller chapters right here in the Hudson Valley, but we do a lot of heavy lifting given our size, so I'm very proud to say that.
Thank you again. If there's no general questions for the large group right now, just to repeat again, this has been videotaped. We'll have the video up in the next week. We'll have all the slides probably up in the next day or 2 on our website. So please, look back at the information, share with your friends and colleagues, and please, send in your application, because Roberta and I can't wait to schedule everyone and see you back here on Marist College on April 17th.